Devi Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai, ISKCON Philadelphia Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, Gaur Paramanande. All glorious assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glorious assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glorious assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glorious to Sri Guru and Sri Garanga, Hare Hare Bol. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravana Pacharane Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Pashyata Deshatarane. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Rayana Namaskritam Naram Chaiva Narottama Devam Sarasvatim Vyasam Jakataya Madhurya Nasta Prayashu Abhadresu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Shloki Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtaki. So good morning, everyone. Hope you had a beautiful weekend. So we're here reading Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 3. And this is second canto, chapter 3, verse 19. And the chapter is Pure Devotional Service, the Change in Heart. So this is a beautiful, beautiful chapter, very instructive. So I'll read it 3 times and then we can all take turns. Svavid varaha hushtra kare samstuta purusha pasu nayat karna pato peto jatuna magada raja. Svavid vara haslustra kare samstuta purusha pasu nayat karna pato peto jatuna magada raja. Svavid vara hostra kaira samstutu purusha pasu nayat karna pato peto jatuna magada graja. Anyone else?
Svavidvara hostrakarai samstuta purusha pasu nayat karna pato peto jatu nama gadagraja. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Svavidvara Shtrakarai Samstuta Purusa Pasu Nayat Karna Patu Peto Jatu Nama Gadagraja.
Krishna, thank you. Anyone else?
Hare Krishna. Swavid Varahostra Kare Samsuta Stuta Purusha Pashu Nayat Karna Pato Peto Jatu Nama Kadagrajaha. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Svavidvaraho strakare samstuta purusha pasu nayat karnapato peto jatu nama gadagraja.
Anyone else?
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Svavidvaraha strakare samstuta purusha pasu nayat karma pato peto jatu nama gadagraja. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Last chance for anyone else? Okay, we'll read word for word then. So, word for word, Sva, a dog. Vit, Varaha, the village hog who eats stool. Ushtra, the camel. Kare, and by the asses. Samstutaha, perfectly raised. Purushaha, a person. Pashuha, animal. Na, never. Yat, of him. Karna, ear. Patha, path. Upetaha, reached. Jatu, at any time. Nama, the holy name. Gadad Graja, Lord Krishna, the deliverer from all evils. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Men who are like dogs, hogs, camels, and asses Praise those men who never listen to the transcendental pastimes of Lord Sri Krishna, the deliverer from evils. Purport. The general mass of people, unless they are trained systematically for a higher standard of life and spiritual values, are no better than animals, and in this verse they have particularly been put on the level of dogs, hogs, camels, and asses. Modern university education practically prepares one to acquire a doggish mentality with which to accept the service of a great master. After finishing a so-called education, the so-called educated person moves like dogs from door to door with applications for some service, and mostly they are driven away, informed of no vacancy. As dogs are negligible animals and serve the master faithfully for bits of bread, a man serves the master faithfully without sufficient rewards. Persons who have no discrimination in the matter of foodstuff and who eat all sorts of rubbish are compared to hogs. Hogs are very much attached to eating stools. So stool is a kind of foodstuff for a particular type of animal. And even stones are eatables for a particular type of animal or bird. But the human being is not meant for eating everything and anything. He is meant to eat grains, vegetables, fruits, milk, sugar, etc. Animal food is not meant for the human being. For chewing solid food, the human being has a particular type of teeth meant for cutting fruits and vegetables. The human being is endowed with 2 canine teeth as a concession for persons who will eat animal food at any cost. It is known to everyone that one man's food is another man's poison. Human beings are expected to accept the remnants of food offered to Lord Krishna, and the Lord accepts foodstuff from the categories of leaf, flower, fruits, etc. As prescribed by Vedic scriptures, no animal food is offered to the Lord. Therefore, a human being is meant to eat a particular type of food. He should not imitate the animals to derive so-called vitamin values. Therefore, a person who has no discrimination in regard to eating is compared to a hog. The camel is a kind of animal that takes pleasure in eating thorns. A person who wants to enjoy family life or the worldly life is so-called enjoyment is compared to the camel. Materialistic life is full of thorns, and so one should live only by the prescribed method of Vedic regulations, just to make the best use of the bad bargain. Life in the material world is maintained by sucking one's own blood. The central point of attraction for material enjoyment is sex life. To enjoy sex life is to suck one's own blood, and there's not much more to be explained in this connection. The camel also sucks its own blood while chewing thorny twigs. The thorns the camel eats cut the tongue of the camel, and so blood begins to flow within the camel's mouth. The thorns mixed with fresh blood create a taste for the foolish camel, and so he enjoys the thorn-eating business with false pleasure. Similarly, the great business magnates, industrialists who work very hard to earn money by different ways and questionable means eat the thorny results of their actions mixed with their own blood. Therefore, the Bhagavatam has situated these diseased fellows along with the animals. The ass is an animal who is celebrated as the greatest fool even amongst the animals. The ass works very hard and carries burdens of the maximum weight without profit for itself. The ass is generally engaged by the washerman, whose social position is not very respectable. And the special qualification of the ass is that it is very much accustomed to being kicked by the opposite sex. When the ass begs for sexual intercourse, he is kicked by the fair sex, yet he still follows the female for such sexual pleasure. A henpecked man is compared therefore to the ass. The general mass of people work very hard, especially in the age of Kali. In this age, the human being is actually engaged in the work of an ass, carrying heavy burdens and driving thela and rickshaws. The so-called advancement of human civilization has engaged a human being in the work of an ass. Laborers in great factories and workshops are also engaged in some burdensome work, and after working hard during the day, the poor laborer has to be again kicked by the fair sex, not only for sex enjoyment, but also for so many household affairs. So Srimad Bhagavatam's characterization of the common man without any spiritual enlightenment in the society of dogs, hogs, camels, and asses is not at all an exaggeration. The leaders of such ignorant masses of people may feel very proud of being adored by such a number of dogs and hogs, but that is not flattering. The Bhagavatam openly declares that although a person may be a great leader of such dogs and hogs disguised as men, if he has no taste for being enlightened in the science of Krishna, such a leader is also an animal and nothing more. He may be designated as a powerful, strong animal or a big animal. But in the estimation of Srimad Bhagavatam, he is never given a place in the category of man on account of his atheistic temperament. Or in other words, such godless leaders of dogs and hog-like men are bigger animals with the qualities of animals in greater proportion. Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Bhakadamayam Tadati Sadbhatam Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pasaya Krishna Shivati Bhakti Charas Namatina Mane Smita Chaita Supanita Padma Sasa Pujan Prabhupada So I'll go back and read the translation again. Men who are like dogs, hogs, camels, and asses praise those men who never listen to the transcendental pastimes of Lord Sri Krishna, the deliverer from evils. So when I was reading this, I was actually, every once in a while I like to also check in with Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur to see also his commentary, because he also adds some things that I love to kind of pull in. And so I thought I'd read his commentary as well, and then dive a little bit into some of the points that Srila Prabhupada made in this purport. So Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary for this verse is, their animalistic life is to be condemned. They are glorified profusely by dogs, pigs, camels, and donkeys. He, as one person, accepts the qualities of us four animals, whereas we are all incapable of taking up another animal's qualities. He, being a human, can take up so many qualities of animals, and we, being animals, cannot take up even one quality of another animal. Overstepping the scripture ordained by Dharma, he accepts our qualities with passion. We, however, are fixed in our qualities by destiny. So this is the animal speaking in the we part. So he is aware, man, is aware of the hell into which he will be born by following our qualities, whereas we are dull-witted and cannot understand anything of the future. In this way, the animals praise him in four ways. The dog's quality is to become angry without reason. The pig's quality is to eat impure items. The quality of the camel is carrying heavy burdens. The quality of the donkey is to get kicked by his mate. Krishna has never gone to that person's ears. Gadagraja means he who appears in front of sickness, Gada, as its enemy. Thus he will appear and destroy the sickness of anger and other bad qualities of the animalistic man. So I thought that this added an extra little bit of flavor to today's verse, really in the voice of the animal speaking, to say, man doesn't even realize how difficult the animals have it, that we cannot take on the form of another animal or the likeness of another animal. We are just in our own, stuck in our consciousness as a dog, a pig, a camel, or a donkey. And yet the man takes these behaviors on, not even realizing how trapped we are, how difficult we are as animals in this particular state. And so, so that the man can take on the dog's qualities of becoming angry without reason, or the pig's qualities of eating impure items, or carrying a heavy burden, or getting kicked. And here, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is explaining that Krishna helps destroy this sickness. Okay, this Gadagraj means that he appears in front of the sickness. He is the one who destroys the sickness of animalistic behavior. And I think that that's a really interesting perspective. Prabhupada has always said that we're in the hospital, right? We're all together in this hospital, recovery from illness. And so here we are. We are here in this hospital, sometimes maybe behaving as an animal, but still trying to also find ourselves in that transcendental space. But here, this is really saying, this verse is also even saying that, people that behave like animals, that don't even have any interest, they have no interest in the transcendental pastimes of the Lord, are praised by the other men who also behave like animals. So, you can look into the world now, and you can see how the wealthy and that only focus on their wealth, only focus on material gain, their own self-aggrandizement, right? They're only looking to find more status and stature in the material world. they're not looking at all to enliven themselves with spiritual activities. And people look up to them, and only the fools that look up to someone such as that, will find them to be elevated. They praise them, but we know better. We know that to see someone in that position to be elevated is foolish. We know that to look up to someone in that status is just it's just deadening our own spiritual path, because we want to find sadhu sangha, right? We don't want to find avidya sangha, ignorance, the sangha of the ignorance, of darkness. So we want to find sadhu sangha. We want to find those that are that are seeking the words of Krishna, that are seeking the relationship with Krishna. Otherwise, we will be pulled into the same river, into the same stream as those who are acting like dogs, hogs, camels, and asses. And so Prabhupada makes this pretty clear, right? And so in the Srimad Bhagavatam in Canto 10, Prabhupada goes on further, and he says, one who identifies himself as the inert body of mucus, bile, and air, who assumes his wife and family are permanently his own, who thinks an earthen image or the land of his birth is worshipable, or who sees a place of pilgrimage as merely the water there, but who never identifies himself with, feels kinship with, worships, or even visits those who are wise in spiritual truth. Such a person is no better than a cow or an ass. So here we are again, that Prabhupada is very much saying, this is part of the Bhagavatam, but Prabhupada is expounding on this to some degree by saying, true intelligence is shown by one's freedom from false identification of the self. And that is a really important component, because the self identified here is the self that is identifying with material and with material world, with material identification. And this false identification of the self is really putting one in a very precarious situation. And one may think, oh, this is very harsh, to accuse people of behaving like asses and camels and dogs and hogs is this very harsh perspective. However, Maya is harsh, right? The material world is harsh if we look at it. There are certainly very very wonderful things about it, but there's also things that are very, very harsh and difficult. And when so if we are only taking ourselves to that level of an animal, then all we are doing is repeatedly subjecting ourselves to suffering. We're repeatedly subjecting ourselves to Maya, to the influences of Mahamaya, and we want Yoga Maya, right? So we have to make sure which Maya we're calling on. We don't want to, if we're calling repeatedly on Mahamaya, she'll gladly engage us in material activities with the karmic effects, with the effects of Maya, which aren't always very attractive. They often cause a tremendous amount of suffering. And so, Prabhupada gives a quote here from Brahaspati Samhita, Agnyata Bhagavad Dharma Matra Vijnana Samvida Naraste Gochara Yenya Apibhutala Vanditi. And this translation is, men who do not know the principles of devotional service to the Supreme Lord should be known as cows and asses, even if they are expert in technically analyzing Vedic mantras and are adored by world leaders. So even the intellectualization of Vedic philosophy is still not sufficient, and still can put them in that animalistic space, because they are not seeking out true wisdom. They're not seeking out spiritual truth. They're only intellectually analyzing the Vedic knowledge. So we have to have gyan, right? We have to have the understanding of Vedic principles, but we need the bhakti. Without the bhakti component, which is that devotional aspect, the gyan it becomes very very hard. It becomes detached. Can be very detached from the essence. Detached from the essence of the knowledge that's presented there in that gyan. So we have to really pair that with bhakti. So here, Prabhupada continues on, an imperfect Vaishnava advancing toward the second class platform that identifies himself with the sages who have established the true spiritual path, even while he still may have some inferior material attachment to body, family, and so on. So we're thinking maybe like a Kanishta Adhikari. We think about the different stages of a devotee, the Kanishta Adhikari. They still have material attachments, but they understand that there is a process. They understand that by going to the temple, by worshiping the deities, by associating with sadhus, with sages, that this is the path forward versus just completely, engulfing themselves in material activities. And and so this is really an important an important aspect. Is who do we look up to? Who do we find ourselves? Who do we want to emulate? Who do we find as role models in our lives? And so the role models, the more that we look to the people that are in the path that we're wanting to go, the more likely that we will move forward and progress in that path. The more that we're looking in the direction of some other path and some other person, then that's going to take us away from the path, the spiritual path. So we want to make sure that we're really following the sadhus and the sages in that jnana and in that bhakti. And so, again, Prabhupada goes on to in the Bhagavad Gita 9.1. Here he's talking about the material, how this knowledge can really free us from the material existence. And so this knowledge that we're seeking, this understanding, it's not just an academic experience. This knowledge is there to help us grow in our devotional activities. And Prabhupada says, as a devotee hears more and more about the Supreme Lord, he becomes enlightened. This hearing process is recommended in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Quote, the messages of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are full of potencies, and these potencies can be realized if topics regarding the Supreme Personality of Godhead are discussed among devotees. This cannot be achieved by the association of mental speculators or academic scholars, for it is realized knowledge. And this is an important thing to remember. Now, let's jump back to the verse for today. And so here Prabhupada is really saying that the masses of people are not trained in spiritual values. They're not trained. They're trained in an academic sense. And this is not to diminish academia in the sense of a lot of us maybe went to college, we achieved degrees, we have a career, we have work to support ourselves and our families. So Prabhupada, and even Krishna says we have to carry out our prescribed duties. We have to carry out our activities to maintain our bodies. And in Kali Yuga, maintaining our bodies isn't always so easy. We have inflation, we have, high cost of living, even just living in the Philadelphia region, it's not the cheapest area to live compared to other cities. So there's a lot that goes into maintaining oneself and one's family. And so sometimes a college education can provide that additional security. That's over here, right? Now, let's say we completely engross ourselves, we take ourselves so far, and we identify with that education as the end all. And this is where what Prabhupada says, the so-called education moves people from door to door, because if they're using that education as a means to an end, and that's it, they're not using that education as a stepping stone to the they're not using it as just a path forward so that they can put some food on the table, but focus on transcendental activities, on devotional activities. If those, and I'm sure we see it around us, people who are not interested in spiritual activities, they will focus on their career, they will climb the corporate ladder, and that is their goal. Their goal is to get a good job, find a good wife or husband, have kids, have a huge house, make lots of money and retire nicely. And that's it. And then in retirement, they may play golf, maybe travel and do some things like that. And we know that that's a way, that is a path. But what does that path get us at the end? Well, it brings us to the repeated birth and death. And so here we know that if we see people in that path, that's where they're at. And they may not be so open to hearing right now, but we help by going on to the next paragraph of this report. We help by maybe giving them some prasadam, and the food. This is a kitchen religion. The Hare Krishna movement is a kitchen religion. Why is that? Because the food is such an important component of our philosophy. Because even in Bhagavad Gita, it's even in Bhagavad Gita, it's telling us patram pushpam phalam toyam yome bhakta prayachati. So it's one offers me with love, leaf, it's in devotion, a leaf, a flower, fruit, and water. I will accept it. So we know that this offering, this food, this how we take things to nourish our body is very important. Even it's discussed in Bhagavad Gita how we can take food stuff in the mode of ignorance, in the mode of passion, in the mode of goodness. So we want to. Food is a very important aspect of how we're experiencing our devotional activities, because we do need to eat. The nourishment is very critical. I'm in the field of nutrition, and so knowing a lot about nutrition and nutrients, and we get a lot of people coming into the practice that are plant-based, and they're looking for ways to balance their nutrition. But I know for a fact that it's not required to eat meat. It's not required to eat fish. And so helping people come to that understanding that the food that we take in very much impacts our consciousness. And I'll give a personal story around this. Actually, I grew up on a farm. I grew up very much in a meat eating family. My dad was a hunter, and I hated it. I didn't like eating meat when I was a kid. I didn't, like that my dad was a hunter. It was very sad. But that was how I grew up. So there was no other option for me. And it wasn't until I was in my teens and I was able to become a vegetarian. But it's, the lack of knowledge around vegetarianism that I had caused me to not execute it very successfully. So there was a couple of times that I fell off the wagon with becoming a vegetarian. And I remember the final time that I finally made a decision to be a vegetarian. And so this was a long time ago. I bit into a piece of meat and I just felt this horrible suffering. And it just made me so sick. The consciousness of having that in my body just made me so sick. I couldn't do it. And so when we think about, and this is a very Western perspective, so many of you grew up vegetarian, which is such a blessing. You never had that experience. And I can tell you it's awful. And so to know that what we put into our body is very much influencing our consciousness. There are actually a couple of studies out there that show that eating animal foods they can actually increase our anger. They certainly increase inflammation in the body, right? And inflammation also affects our mood. So there's biological effects that come with eating animal food that are very real. They're very real. So when we want to help someone even if they're not open to spiritual life, even if they seem very closed off to the idea of exploring God, then we bring them some prasadam. And that's a beautiful way to introduce that into my, and I'll take some cookies. My husband's a great baker, and I'll take some cookies up to my farm family dad and just give him some cookies because he's still very much in that same mindset of being a farmer. And that's fine. And I don't try and change him. I still go up and visit him and I love him, but I bring him some prasadam. And I just love him where he's at, and we have that relationship. So even though he is not in the same space, we can bring ourselves to any relationship simply by showing love and compassion and giving someone a little bit of prasadam. And that's a beautiful way to help someone progress in their life and in their spiritual life. And even if it takes a few lifetimes, that your positive, joyful influence just by being you can very much have a positive impact on whoever you're around. And so we think about the material activities, and Prabhupada talks about like talks about the ass carrying the heavy burden, and Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur talks about the camel carrying the heavy burden. Think about the burdens that we can all carry, whether it's work or anxiety. These burdens, and the concept of carrying the burden really really jumped out at me when I was preparing for this class, because I really see it in material life. Yeah, we see people eating meat. We see effects of the sex life and all of these things. But what I see so much is this heavy burden that is carried in society, and it's the heavy burden of having to go to work and work so hard, and the stress. And I have friends that are worked very hard to become very successful executives, and I'll talk to some of them here and there, and they're just like, so stressed, and they're carrying such this heavy burden of having to work 60, 70 hours a week. And they call them, the people that I know in the situation are very high up in large corporations. They're making really good money, but they call them golden handcuffs. And maybe you've heard that term before. That's not a very good term, golden handcuffs. Golden handcuffs means that you know that you're destroying yourself. You know that this is not the path forward, but you can't leave because you're so attached to the material gains. That's a real, and it reminds me very much of this verse, the concept of golden handcuffs, because when we have golden handcuffs, we feel completely trapped, because the lifestyle has come up and up and up. You ever see people, the more money they make, the more money they spend. So then they need to make more money, and then they just never quite have enough money. And then, so it's like chasing your tail, right? You get a raise. So what happens when you buy, when people get a raise? What's the first thing they do? They probably buy a new car, or they maybe if it's a really big raise or a promotion, they might like buy a new house, right? So this is really the human condition we see over and over again. This is not simple living, high thinking at all. Simple living, high thinking is the concept that we keep it simple and we focus our energies on simple maintenance of our bodies. We know that in Sri Ishopanishad, it talks about just taking just our quotient. We don't want to take more than what is required for us. And yesterday, I think it was yesterday, Shamagori was talking about, animals, they just take what they need. And it's true, although I was laughing because squirrels don't. Squirrels have a very bad habit of trying to squirrel things away and making little piles. But it's true. I mean, if we took just what we need and keep our life simple, keep things simple, that we're not in this material mode of acquisition, we will probably do a lot better on a lot less. But these golden handcuffs can be very, very entrapping. So we have to be really careful about this, this moving forward. And when we see others doing that, we can just have compassion, and encourage them to maybe take some time for themselves, give themselves some space, maybe, give them a book, or like I said, give them prasadam, especially if it's someone that we know. It's for them, it's for those people, it's not about telling them you're in the mode of passion, you're just killing yourself, you're just going to die and have to come back and repeat this all. So that's maybe not the exact message we want to put across to those people, because they are struggling and they're feeling their own suffering. I see it with the people that I know that are in these situations. They are suffering. They know they're suffering and they don't have a way out. And so the only way out that we can provide them is through knowledge and through compassion and through prasadam. And this working like asses and camels and carrying such heavy burdens, even down to the simple things. So we might say, oh, thank God, I just have a simple job, I have a simple life. I'm not that person, and that's great. But I always like to think about the introspection that we each can all have as individuals on this path, to say, what burden do I carry? Anxiety, stress, These are types of burdens that we can also bring. We have anxiety over things we have no control over. And this is a burden too. So sometimes it's not just a physical burden or the material burden of going to work, golden handcuffs, buying a big house, all of these things, but sometimes it's the burden of our own mind. Our mind can pull us away so quickly because of an anxiety, because of something that we have no control over. So in those moments when we are feeling that we have anxiety over something, what is the remedy? Well, we can turn to Krishna, we can chant, we can give thanks and gratitude for the things that have been brought into our life, and accept that this, that everything in our life is determined by Krishna. We take the activities in that direction, but ultimately Krishna is the ultimate decider. And so when we take to the path of spiritual activities, this is a process. This is that the Vaidhi Bhakti. So, and I talk about this a lot because I think it's really important to remember the Vaidhi Bhakti is a process. And it is not an easy process. And it's not always a straight line forward. And there may be setbacks and there may be points of reassessing or reevaluating. But the process of Vaidhi Bhakti is there to help guide us. And Prabhupada, and this through this Hare Krishna movement, Prabhupada has given us the process. He's given us the instruction. He's given us the knowledge. He's helping to connect us to Krishna. So all that we have to do is take to the process. And Prabhupada would say this, just take to the process of Krishna consciousness. Just take to the process. All it takes is just a step forward. And if Krishna sees that you're making that attempt, that you're taking that step and moving forward, he will reciprocate. And this is where Krishna's causeless mercy comes into play, because Krishna's causeless mercy, the causeless part of the mercy, means that there doesn't have to be a reason for it. We don't have to be able to put an explanation to it. That Krishna can just give mercy just because. And so in our, human material concepts of life in our minds, we can try and wrap our heads around, oh, well, Krishna did this for this person or this for that. But the causeless mercy is beyond what we can understand, because it is spiritual. It is now completely spiritual. And so this process that we are taking to, this Krishna consciousness process, is just that. It's a process. And so here in Srimad Bhagavatam, why are we going through this process? Because isn't the chapter about pure devotional service and the change of heart? So why are we talking about dogs and hogs and camels and those who don't follow this path? It's in my perspective, it's a warning. So we have to know where we don't want to go in order to have a clearer perspective of where we want to go. If we have a clearer perspective of where we want to go, then we know we're going to step on that path, and we're going to do so at least with knowledge of the opposite of where we don't want to go. We know that the path of the general masses is not one that leads to it doesn't lead to joy. There's happiness. There's moments of happiness. Sure, everyone has experienced joy or happiness in their lives, regardless, I'm sure, of where they are. They may have experienced some glimmers of joy and happiness. That's not what we're talking about here. We're not saying that you can't enjoy life or have happiness if you're just in the material mindset. The point is that joy and happiness is temporary, because we see it. We see it every day. We can see someone riding a roller coaster. Oh, it's a great day. Oh man, someone just, bumps my car. Oh, it's a great day. I got a raise. Oh man, my kid's sick. So we can see people are constantly riding a roller coaster. So what is that emotional roller coaster from? That's from the material perspective. Because when one truly comes, and this is not an easy thing, right? I'm not talking about like, kindergarten math. This is not easy. It can be easy with it. Krishna can give us that causeless mercy that can switch us in a second to have that perspective. But the one that is able to sit in that space of pure devotional service, their minds and their hearts are engaged and relishing in that relationship with Krishna. So when there are material ups and downs, they're here. They're here just saying, yeah, that was hard, but yeah, Krishna's with me. I'm still feeling internally satisfied. And it's that internal, that self-satisfaction. And self-satisfaction is not like, hey, I did something really good today. Yeah, good for me. Self-satisfaction is this idea that we are the self, the true self, not the material self, the true self is fully absorbed and fully satisfied in the relationship with Krishna. And so that satisfaction is always there. It's an endless wellspring. It's an endless wellspring of tranquility, Bhaktaram Yagya Hashem. So that's the peace formula, right? We understand that everything's coming from Krishna. All of the yagya, they're for Krishna. Krishna is the well-wisher of all living entities. This is the peace formula. So to know where we want to go, we have to know where we don't want to go. And so we don't want to go here because this process here, what we're talking about today, leads to suffering. And we experience suffering regardless, but this is a different level of suffering. This is a deep, deep material suffering. And it's only because their minds and their hearts are turned away from Krishna. And so we were talking about the other day in a Bhagavad Gita class that, we do have free will. We can't control the things that happen around us, but we have free will in which side we choose. And the free will is really at this intersection. It's, do we choose this path of material life and focus on that and really grow ourselves in that life? Or do we choose the path of devotional life? And sometimes, we may find ourselves like, whoa, somewhere in the middle, like, getting pulled this way, but I really want to be over here, but I'm getting pulled this way again. And I really want to be over here. And that's working through our internal struggles, right? Because she's just tapping into things that are inside of us, and she's there to test us and make sure we're really fixed in where we want to be. But those internal struggles, that's because we have karma, we have past life activities, we have current life challenges, families that we've been brought into that may feel challenging at times, and jobs and things that present difficulties. And so we might feel torn, we feel pulled back and forth. We're on a seesaw, which, and that's, I think that's pretty normal. But the key is to remember that we still have a choice every day. And if we choose to behave in an animalistic, materialistic way, or if we choose to focus in the path of bhakti, of remembering Krishna, hearing about Krishna, understanding our relationship to Krishna, this path, if nothing else, if we just keep that as a focus, if nothing else, Krishna will help continue to pave the path forward for us. That's not to say there won't be bumps on the road. That's not to say that we won't be tested and things won't be difficult sometimes. But if we just keep reminding ourselves that this is what we want it because it is our constitutional position as our spirit soul. Our spirit soul is already connected to Krishna. Our spirit soul is already has that connection. It's just that our material mind and our material intelligence wants to experience the material world. So we feel this tug of war happening. And so the more that we engage in a relationship with our own spirit soul, with our own connection, the more we uncover that spirit soul, clean it off, and listen to that, the more we get that guidance from Paramatma, and then we have the connection to Krishna. And that comes from our daily chanting. It comes from reading and hearing and talking to others that are also on the same path. And this is where the Sadhu Sangha part comes in, as I mentioned right in the beginning. Who are we seeing as our role models? Who are our role models? And the more that we look up to those that are on the path that we want to be on, the more likely that we're going to emulate those behaviors and ultimately follow in that same stream. So we want to make sure we're climbing into the right stream and getting that knowledge and that association and hearing about the Lord, so that we don't end up on the other side. And for those that we know that are making different choices in their life, as I said before, we come to them from a place of compassion and just in that space of setting an example. We don't always have to preach. We don't always have to say, you're doing it wrong. This is the wrong path. But sometimes just living by example, people will say, why are you so happy? Why do you seem so even keeled even when things go wrong? And you can say, well, let me tell you a little more. Let me tell you a little bit more about what I do every day to try and keep myself connected and balanced. And that curiosity starts to arise. So I see we're coming up on time, way a little bit past time. But anyway, I will open it up now for questions, comments, corrections, and thank you all for listening today. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
One question raised in my mind, if like our goal is to be Krishna conscious, and not carried out the burden, like work hard too much, but we still go like running after that, like even for our children, we want them to go university, college, good study, then get a good job. We always hope for that, because this is our
Right.
attachment.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's natural in this material world to see our children succeed in the material world. Certainly the spiritual path is, it's not so widely accepted in this material world. So we want our children to succeed and be happy and successful and have good lives. That being said, I think that it's good to prepare our children for the realities of material life, because we're still here. They're still here. So as long as we're still in a material body, the material realities are going to hit us in the face pretty hard. So I think it's good to prepare our children for material life while still infusing Krishna conscious understanding, to help remind them that even though going to a school and getting a good job is important for survival and not getting completely creamed in material life, it's not the goal. So, and I think bringing that message forward to children in general to help them see that, yes, you can go to school, you can get a job and do those things, take care of your family nicely, but remember, keep it simple. Don't forget your relationship with Krishna. Don't forget to chant, and just plant that seed strongly enough that they will take to it and never forget it. And they will carry that seed with them and want to have the desire to water it on their own. And so I don't know, Mukti Mataji, if that answers your question at all. It's just my own, very lowly perspective, but
Yeah, Mataji, we do that. I hope Krishna will take them in his lotus feet.
you and your
Always
husband are
pray for
beautiful.
that.
You and your husband are beautiful devotees. So surely your children will, will cultivate that spark and that seed as they grow older. But sometimes it's we have to be pragmatic too, in my opinion, and so, like I said, it's not always easy to just
I
not
have
work and
another
not do
question,
things.
Mataji. Like for myself, right, like keep it simple things is good, I know, but sometimes, even if it is for Krishna, like I have 2 Gopals. First I bought one. So when I went to the temple, I see another nice, like beautiful Gopal. Then I was like, okay, should I get it? Because I have one. Then I said like, Jagannath Priya Mataji, maybe I will think about that. Then like I was too attached when I came back home. Then I was thinking, why I should have got it. So like next time I went, then I said, Mataji, I want to take that Gopal. Yeah. But right now I have 2, and I saw another like new style there. It came out like sitting Gopal, like a baby, real baby,
Mhm.
So I got too much attached, and I'm bothering my Prabhu, I want to have that. If if it is like that, then it is okay. I'm not keeping it simple. Like I have more jobs right now. If I have 2 Gopal already, then I brought another one. Then has like too much, not simple. I have to take care of them too. But how about that kind of like desire?
Well, I mean, it's spiritual desire, so that's a start, right? And so, so I think we have to just kind of go with it, and also, you know your heart best, and Krishna knows your heart best, and I think sometimes we can just self-reflect. I think you're a beautiful devotee, so and so, we can just be always just self-reflective and just understand our own motivations in doing things. And so, like I said, those are spiritual activities. So that's a beautiful thing. So yeah, I don't have any does that help? I don't know if not.
Yeah, Mataji, thank you.
Yeah.
Haribol?
Yavali had Hare Krishna, go look at Priya, Hare Krishna.
Yeah. I was just thinking, we'll be thinking that in the material world, how we deal with the material. But at the same time, like Krishna spoke Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, he didn't ask him to give up his kingdom. He didn't ask him to give up his family. He didn't ask him to give up anything. You had to work and always remember him. So that's one way, everything material and spiritual belong to Krishna. So if we dovetail all the materialistic activities, and train our children, try to train it when they accept it or not. And, and tell people, like you do whatever you're doing, but still you have to have a change of consciousness and remember that everything belongs to Krishna. You already said in your class, that everything belongs to Krishna. And we have to take our quota. So if we keep on, like encourage people to chant the holy name and read the scriptures and accept everything that in this world belongs to Krishna. Nothing is separate from Krishna. In this consciousness, when we engage in material activities and have Krishna at the center, we're still Krishna conscious.
That's absolutely true. I love it. Thank you so much for that beautiful thought, because it's so true that this is all Krishna. These are all Krishna's energies, and it's how we choose to view them. And if we view them as mine, and if we view them as with our own personal ownership, if our self-realization is material, then we're not going to remember where it came from. But if our self-realization is spiritual, then we will see that ultimately everything belongs to Krishna, and he has full domain over everything. So, thank you. And Yavali, go ahead.
Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances all for his Srila Prabhupada. Yeah, just about that degrees and education and raising the children. It is very hard, like Mataji said, it is very hard. It's not a joke. And children also, if you give birth to 2-3 children, they're all different. They cannot be the same. One can listen, one won't listen. And another thing is with the degrees and with the education, competitive life nowadays, this Kali Yuga. But with that, you need to little bit tell them about the spiritual thing also. And then from childhood, if we don't do, like a plant, small plant, you can bend it either way. If it is a big tree, we cannot bend it, So that's why usually my actually elderly people advice is just from childhood. It's very tough, a mother for mother, but it has to be. And degrees is not the only measurement for our education. It needs to have common sense also. So with that only, we have to raise the children. It is not easy, but it has to take. That is the part of mother. That is the main thing. I just, it's very hard. But I see that her little child, how he runs and how she runs after him. Yes, that is the truth. After a little while, he will know that. So those are the things. And then here, Krishna says, Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam. He didn't ask for anything big once to just make 10, 15 dishes and offer to him. No, with love and affection and bhakti, wholeheartedly, if you offer something, whatever, he will take it. That's what our thing is, Oh, no, that Mataji's made 2-3 items for Krishna and I'm not able to make it. No, that is not the thing. With bhakti, whatever we offer, Krishna will accept it. That's what my feeling is.
Beautiful, Vindhyavali Mataji. Thank you. And you brought up a couple of good points about the fact that we, I'm not a parent, but all my friends are parents, and so I see that the difficulties. Like I said, you in this Kali Yuga, it's not easy. You do have to be practical about how to maintain oneself. And so, but in Javali Mataji's point, that we do need to make sure that children are educated at an early age, at least on Krishna consciousness, and encouraging them to chant and continue their community, their connection to the community, or to a community wherever they're living. So these are important points to be made, so that they don't slip into the mainstream mindset that is, you have to get a good job, you have to climb the corporate ladder, you have to get a big house, and suddenly they're pulled away. And so it is, I think as a parent, some children may take to it, some may not, but at least that seed's been planted. And for the children that do show an interest, to continue to fan the fire, and gently fanning the fire. Oh, come to the temple, join me at the temple, I'll meet you for dinner, or little things like that as they get older. But it's not easy. Kali Yuga is the hardest of all Yuga cycles, so it's certainly not an easy time to be raising children, and I sympathize for all of those.
Like you said, money, we need money. Without Lakshmi, we cannot survive in this Kali Yuga. Okay, that is fine. But that is not the main thing we should be taking. And you just tell the children, whatever we have, be happy with that. Try to make mold their mind like that. Because, if we have a small house, no, I want to have a big house. No, I want to buy this kind of shoes, this kind of clothes, that kind of luxurious thing, You just tell them whatever capacity, you just enjoy with that. That's how we have to teach the children only, because they don't know. Children are just, they were playful, and they will be, for a while, they will be like that. But, main part is parents. That's it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Yeah. Any other? I know we're getting really late now, so thank you for the wonderful discussion. Any other comments, reflections, corrections, general thoughts for the day?
Wonderful class. That is the comment I have. Thank you very much for a lot of things covered.
Thank you. Suman Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, you made a very wonderful class. Everything is so practical in this Kali Yuga for us, and really, I think these are these. And you said that when we are in difficulty, and if you have done enough devotional service, it gives us spiritual strength. So I have practically experienced that when I was sick, and I went through a lot, but I always took it very easy. I always thought that Krishna was with me, and that time went very easily. And though it was a difficult time, but because of this spiritual strength, so it was easy. So that's what my understanding is, and the realization is, when we have this, we have spiritual strength, and it helps us a lot in our difficult time. Really,
100%.
I made a very point. Thank you very much.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you, Sriman Mataji. It's so true. Thank you for that. That's a beautiful way to end it, that having that faith in Krishna and having that relationship with Krishna can get us through anything. It still might be hard, but it gives us the faith and the ability to carry through. So thank you again. Thank you, everyone. Any other thoughts before we wrap up? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyo cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Hare Krishna.
Have a wonderful day, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Thank